Thank you. You mentioned about the State Board of Accountancy. That's the group that licenses all CPAs. And you can't become a CPA until you go before that board. And the chairman has to go to sign your certificate. And at the time that I came onto that board, we had virtually no black CPAs, because in order to become a CPA, you had to work for a white accounting firm. And white firms wouldn't hire you. And I remember so distinctly walking up and down Woodward Avenue and all through the Penobscot building and all through the office buildings down there, going door to door to each accounting firm asking them to hire me. And I remember distinctly being turned down repeatedly. I also recall so clearly my professor at Wayne State University telling me that I could never become an accountant, more or less ever become a CPA. And I remember him discouraging me to try to do that. I will cut to the chase and say that as she just described, I not only became an accountant, I was a member of the Michigan State Board of Accountancy, became its chairman. And now that professor calls me Mr. Barrow. But if I listened to him, I would have been on the streets. Yes. And I say that to say that your governor, the man who is in my view, in my personal view, such a horrible elected official. If he will look on his wall in his office, he will see my name as the one who gave him his CPA certificate. I licensed it. Not many know that happened. But he's on the wall there, and there you'll see my name. I have found that I sleep better when I'm candid, when I don't choose my words, and when I'm open and I talk directly. Sometimes that's my bane, sometimes that's the great thing. People won't like them. But I upset those that are in the corporate arena. There's probably no one who's more pro-business and who's more entrepreneurial than I am. But I'm also very much recognize where I come from. And that's Hurlwood Encouragement. My parents, my mother worked for the city of Detroit for 35 years, almost 40 years. My daddy was a gambler up on Mack Avenue. And I say that to say that when I saw them take the pensions of our people, when I saw them zeroing in on 19 people who started working for the city once Coleman Young was elected mayor, when I saw them take our assets, Cobo Hall, Belle Isle, the Art Institute, the Detroit Windsor Tunnel, when I saw them take every asset, the water system, when I saw them take Eastern Market, the zoo, the historical museum, when I saw them under the guise of doing something good for us, what I saw, quite frankly, in my view, was straightforward racism and prejudice. That's right. What they have done is use very slick business techniques, which I so quickly recognize, as if they're doing something for your good, our good. They know I understand it. And I don't care who they are, but they know I recognize bigotry and hatred when I see it. And what they're doing to us is they're causing us to fight amongst ourselves. Whites down below the line and blacks down below the line. We're fighting amongst ourselves while the guy who's making the policy is sitting upstairs and creating policies that make us fight amongst ourselves so that he can maintain his power and his money. That's right. He realizes that there's more of us down here than there is of that 1% up there. So if he could just get some of all of ours, it'll make him that much richer. You know, and many of us in this room remember the days when we had leadership, elected leadership, that we could go to. And so often we recall that and we retain that in our minds, and we think that that's the way it is now. It is not. We have no one looking out for us in our elected leadership. I have to be candid. That's right. We have no one looking out for us that we can go to. And as a result, it is easy for those who are outside to be able to take over because they are complicitous. Our leadership is complicitous. You would think these were the days of Jim Crow. You would think these were the days that we left behind. The gains that we had under Coleman Young have been eroded. Those of you who think that you are able to go and get the job just as quickly as the next person, you can forget that. They've privatized and taken away everything. So how do we get this back? We're under assault. This city, whether we want to accept it or not, and whether I know that there's folks in here right now going to take this message back, and I know that there's the corporatocracy that is watching this and that will say we can't have that barrel guy nowhere around us because I know who you are. But I want them to understand this. We are in a fight for our lives here in Detroit. And black folks and working class white folks, we need to be together and band together because it is about all of us being erased. To minimize us and marginalize us. And it is so clear. And so how do we do that? I'm going to tell you all about the election system. I'm going to spend a few minutes on it because you take it for granted. In your minds, you can't believe that anybody could very well tamper with anything to do with our election system. We believe without fail that our election system, if we just get out and hustle and go vote, it's going to be successful. Well, it's not the way it is, folks. There's things that I saw with my own eyes. I'm not a marginal crazy guy. I'm a very rational, consistent, I like to think I'm halfway intelligent businessman. I see what I see, and I know what I saw. And I'm just going to tell you in 2009, before I bring you up to our voter initiative today and where it is today. In 2009, when Dave Bean won, they needed Dave Bean. Dave Bean, in my opinion, and this is just my personal opinion, is incapable, unable to understand complex concepts, and they knew that they would need him in order to be able to achieve what they've been able to achieve. They also knew that if I was sitting there, that this barrel guy would never go for this, so they had to make sure that he was there. But before I announced, I did polling. I knew what was going to happen. I knew that we would blow him out because he wasn't a Detroiter. I knew that Detroiters would see the difference in the distinction. And so when we lost and it went against all of our polling, and you know, at that time there was none of that polling like they did the last time. Remember, every 2 weeks there was a new poll by companies that never did polling. But then there was none, because they knew what was about to happen. And when we lost, we accepted the loss, but I wanted to do a count a few ballots. And so I did. I'm going to cut through the chase, but I will tell you that when they brought in the first case, you need to know this so that you don't go through and don't understand what I saw and why it is that I fight so hard and why these people went out and circulated these petitions. When they brought in the first case and all the numbers lined up with exactly what was on the paper, I couldn't understand it. Then they brought in the next absentee case. And when I asked them to say, check the seal on the top, which is what the law required, they checked the seal, they checked it to the poll book, and it matched. And they were proceeding to open up the case. And I said, well, wait a minute, there's another seal on the bottom. You have to check that. And they told me in no uncertain words, and you need to understand, this is what we saw, not just me, hundreds of us saw this. They said to me, we don't check the seals on the bottom. We've never checked those. Who the hell you think you are? You don't tell us to check something. We're running this thing. To me, that was the wrong response. And so they opened up the case anyhow. And when they opened up that case, there's more ballots in the box than there were names. And so they had to close it up. You can't recount it. By the time they brought in the third or fourth case, I got on the floor. And I looked at that bottom seal number, and I jumped up, which is harder to do now. I jumped up and I looked over the shoulder of the worker and looked at the poll book, and the seal didn't match. That's when my breath left. And they brought in the next case. And I got on the floor and I looked at the seal. It didn't match. They brought in case after case after case after case. The bottom seal didn't match. There were so many so that many of you in this room don't know right to today that 100% of the city's absentees back in 2009 that elected Dave Bean in a vote that was only 9,000 ballots different, 100% of them could not be recounted because the seals on the cases had been changed. The white media or the corporate media wouldn't tell you about that because it would call the system into play. Another 22,000 ballots at the polls could not be recounted. 54% of the ballots cast in 2009 could not be recounted because the seals on the cases had been changed and did not match. But none of you in this room, or many of you in this room, were remaining completely unaware, except for those that are in here that were participating in that recount. So many so. Being was never elected. So I have no respect, because I know what I saw. In 2013, we went through it again, and every 2 weeks you'd see another poll come out, because they're building a perception to trick enough black folks, because they knew that Caucasians were going to vote in a block. He knew it. He knew it. And I'm not afraid of him. He don't live here. I live right next door to the place. I know he doesn't live here. The point is that now, come 2013, 2015, we circulated the petitions. And you need to know I might have to go over just a minute or so of my time, because I want you to know he's doing his job now. He didn't do it early. He's on his job now. In 2015, the people got together. When Mr. Duggan won, 42% of the ballots were in the same handwriting. You'd have to have been in the same room, you would have seen it. When we subpoenaed the printer's manifest, because I'm an auditor, we subpoenaed the printer's manifest. And for the first time, the printer, who did not want to let anybody know how many ballots he printed, on the day that we were about to go into court, he finally responded to the subpoena. And we saw for the first time that 35,000 extra blank absentee ballots are printed that are never accounted for. And so we saw all these ballots in the same handwriting. So we knew when it went down. You didn't know because you weren't there. And no one was telling you. So we got the people together. And we then circulated petitions last year that says, here's what we're going to do, folks. We're going to require, Detroit is the only city where you don't know who won till the next morning sometimes. Yeah. Despite the fact that all the ballots have been counted and the precincts closed at 8 o'clock that evening. In Cobo Hall, where the absentees are counted, they're done counting at 3 o'clock. They're just waiting till 8 o'clock so they can run the tape and they can leave. And in fact, what we did in Cobo Hall in that election, they put us out of the room. They put 22 qualified, properly authorized election challengers out of Cobo Hall when we started seeing irregularities. Media never said a word. So last year, we got together and we circulated the petitions. Here's what it provides for. And you need to understand what you're under assault, because folks, they're trying to keep you quiet. It provides that at 8 o'clock, at the closing of the polls, when that city worker, who we know is honest, when they press that button and out comes the tape, they must hang that tape on the front door of the precinct where you voted at. At 8 o'clock at Cobo Hall, when you press that button and the absentee count comes out, you must hang that tape, another copy of that tape, on the front door of Cobo Hall. The people circulated that petition. That only seeks for fairness. And so we got enough signatures. They didn't think we were going to do it. We got enough signatures. We presented them to the Detroit Elections Department as required to do. On May 8th, I went down, they said, you have enough signatures. But we didn't get the formal notification. They have 60 days for the council now to vote it into law. Mid-June, we finally received a letter dated May 8th, which means 45 days had passed, and you have only 14 days now for the council to vote. They don't move that quick. Janice Winfrey knew that. She deliberately held it up. I'm not angry at Janice Winfrey. I'm angry at us for not rising up against this, because she is coordinating all of this. And so as a result, it goes over to the council, to the elections, to the committee called the Internal Operations Committee. That committee then had the law department take a look at our ordinance and came back on July 22nd and said that your ordinance is proper. The ordinance provides that you as a citizen, if they don't hang that tape on the door, you can complain to the Inspector General. He has 10 days to make a determination. And at the end of that 10 days, if he finds that you violated the ordinance and didn't hang it, he then can report to the Election Commission and you are banned from being able to work on a city election for 2 years, and you're fined $5,000. The city elections law department came back and says your ordinance is proper. on July 22nd and said we would like to just have an opportunity to put it into proper ordinance form for the Detroit City Council to pass it into law immediately. That's a reasonable request. We agreed. They were going on recess July 31st, so all during July I called the city law department to meet. I called. Andre Spivey says, we're going to do this, don't worry about it, Mr. Barrow, you just cooperate, you just help us out. George Cushionberry says, you just don't worry, we're going to pass this. All during August, no one responded. We come back in September, the day it's supposed to go before the Detroit City Council, and they bring back an ordinance that's entirely different, that I had no input on. A criminal ordinance. I said, well, we don't want a criminal ordinance. We're not trying to put somebody in jail over this. Their ordinance required, that they wrote, that you have to go and file a complaint at the police department, at the local precinct. Their ordinance required that the local precinct sergeant at the desk would then refer to an investigator who would investigate at some point. We know that's never going to happen. And then when that investigator's done, he's going to turn the result of this investigation over to the city law department, and the city law department will make a determination whether or not they're going to do anything about it. Well, you know, that's going to take years. We see through that. That's a scam. That's a hustle. So we said, no, we don't want that. We're not going to participate in that. That's not what we want. Now I will give you the final coup de grace on this. After we said no, that we will not do that, it then got referred to the Detroit Election Department to put it on the ballot right now. It's supposed to be on the presidential ballot in March. I called the Detroit Election Department every other day, all during December, all during January, all during February. No one knew when they would meet. I get a call last week from somebody at the council level and said it's on the council's agenda tomorrow. The Detroit Election Commission refused to put it on the ballot. And they met on December the 3rd. December the 3rd, you met and you never said anything to me? And it's our ordinance? It's the people's ordinance and you never said anything? We didn't have a chance to say anything or testify? No, folks, they're doing it behind the scenes. You don't know anything at all about it. But here is the big thing, though. On the same day that the Detroit Election Commission met, David Robertson, a Michigan State Senator from Grand Blanc, introduced legislation, House Senate Bill 634, which says that no city inspector general may become involved in any city election process. There's no other city in Michigan that has an inspector general but us. There's no other city that has an inspector general named in any initiative. It says that no citizen can initiate anything of that sort that would involve somebody outside of the city's election department. That's Duggan. That's Duggan calling on his friends. So you need to tell your friends, because we are now in the process of going to court. We're about to take him down. We're not going to lay down. We come too far. You know, like Brother Chokwe, you know, I got that same kind of blood running over through the tail end of my bones and my veins too. The people now have got to stand up. This is more than just us, just more than just me. This whole state is watching this. There's nothing wrong with our ordinance. Our ordinance was approved by the city's law department. It has since reversed and changed its mind and said that no, it's all illegal now, arbitrarily. So I will close here by saying to you, you've got to rise. You've got to help us to be able to do this. We've got to go to court. We've got to fight this like we fought casino gambling. If you recall back in 1987, when casinos were authorized by the state of Michigan, there was a group that circulated petitions that said even if casinos are authorized in Michigan, it should be illegal until the people of the city of Detroit vote to have it. We are that group that did that. And you got a chance to weigh in. And you then voted to approve casinos ultimately after turning it down 3 times. On the 4th time, they accepted it, and we have the casinos. And you can see they violated every single promise that they made. Because we have no leadership. That's right. We are all used to Coleman Young and the strength at the top. It is no longer there, folks. There's no one now looking out for us. The way you got to take it back is through this ballot box. You got to take it back. You got to fight and resist this thing. You got to stand up against it. And the folks who are sitting at home right now looking at this on YouTube or looking at this wherever it is, you have a duty, a responsibility to stand up and to fight and to take your city back. to bring us all together. We don't need to be at loggerheads with people who are moving in from the outside. We all like growth. We all like that. They don't know. They don't know. They just come in where they see an opportunity. But everything that's going on downtown would have gone on anyhow because they're making money making it. Right. There's nothing, but they're leaving us out again out here. Black folks, working folks, ordinary folks are not participating in this. And we don't need to be apologetic anymore. We don't need to be reluctant to want to stand up and say that what you're doing is wrong. We don't need to be apologetic and afraid we're going to upset, and I mean this in a gentle way, but in a truthful way, not that we're going to upset some white person somewhere. Because we have a sense of inferiority and can't look them in the eye. No, those days are all gone. We need to stand up now as co-equals because we need to work together. Having said that, I'll end. But your election system is under assault. You got to take it back. They're keeping this system in place now for Janice Winfrey and her congressional race. And I will tell you, folks, I don't care what any of you say, John Conyers is toast. He is toast. I don't care how much you're going to go out and hustle for him. They're going to use the system. He's going to lose by a little bit, but he's going to lose if you don't take your system back. It's going to happen. They're doing this now. This is the payback to Janice Winfrey. That's why she then put him on the ballot when he wasn't qualified. That's why they had a secret meeting in December without informing us. That's why they have introduced legislation to try to block this, and now they're stalling for time to have that law go into effect for that Senate bill to happen. I'll close. The Citizens for Detroit's future needs you. We need you to stand with us to help us. Our website will be up. We need you to donate $1, $10, whatever you can afford to help us hire this lawyer. I'm meeting with them next week again to lay out the plan. But we've got to fight. We've got to fight because they've taken everything you own. Your school system is gone now. And they're leaving it now. They're going to use a slick financial move to laden your current schools with debt. Leave it as a shell. And so that all your property taxes go to pay the debt over here on this shell. And they're going to create a whole new fresh system over here, fully funded with the state money, and privatize it. This is the Republican plan. That's what's happening to us, folks. That's what's going on. We got to open our eyes and look around. You're all here, I'm preaching to the choir. I understand. But I also want to inform this choir. I want you to know and walk into things with your eyes full open. What's happening to us is not an accident. It is a plan. It is a complex, sophisticated plan that relies on our lack of knowledge and ignorance of what's going on about us and the sophistication of what it is that's going on. Detroit has trained, qualified folks, like the sister here, Alice here, the lawyer, and others who are capable, every bit as capable. And one of them down there. We just have to seize it. We have to now recognize we take it all back to the ballot box and bring everybody together, all the people together, black and white, Latino, Hispanic, or whatever we want to call it, the people, Asians, everybody who's moving in, bring them all together. Because what they're doing to us is going to marginalize all of us. We can't afford to go. I go to the restaurant downtown because I happen to be fortunate enough to be able to have the money to do it. But every time I go down there, I feel like I got stuck up. That's how expensive it is. It's okay to renaming the city. I used to know that area over there on Cass down there, as you run through down, I used to know that as the Cass Corridor. They didn't rename that. Every aspect of it. And I'm not an angry black man. I'm a black man who understands what's going on and want to include everybody, not just those select few. And the guys who are making these rules are at the top, causing us down here on the bottom to fight amongst ourselves. And when we say something about it, the other people say, well, why do you complain about it? I'm not like that. No, and the guy up there who is like that. So I'll just leave it right there. I get too worked up. I'll continue on. I don't mean to dominate the rules. I mean, we know a little bit, but it was all a good feeling, and hopefully you'll all understand as to why it is. Thank you all very much for your time.